It's Matt Santagapita from the Santa Sells Houses team, and today we've got Andrea with us. She is the Executive Director of the London Heritage Council. Big tongue twister. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
You think this city's ever going to get it right?
Yes.
You think? Just
yes.
slowly?
Yes. Yes, 100%. So when I showed up 12 years ago, fresh from the UK, that was my reference point. Plunked into London, which I was like, wow, look at all the strip malls everywhere.
Yeah.
But Dundas...
You're talking very different spots,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Because...
Yeah. Oh, I'm talking like over there, like, you know, European capitals of culture, and, you know, you don't have to convince people that museums are important or play a vital role in society. Funding arts, that's just what people do. And you and I have spoken about this before, city centers,
yes,
not downtowns, city centers that are totally pedestrianized, that no traffic, no deliveries, no anything outside the hours of like 6 a.m. and midnight. You know, bollards are up, people are walking around, people are shopping, people are eating, people are drinking, and nobody's complaining about the deliveries. And then plunked into London, Ontario, which I had never set foot in until I had my interview. And I was like, wow. And this is...
okay, because like I think this is
shock.
funny. Not really funny, but from a credentials, accolades, all of that stuff, it really kind of doesn't make sense that you're actually in the position that you're in. In the sense where, like, I'm just saying, you really are actually insanely overqualified.
Yes. Absolutely. I was curating 23 museums and art galleries in Scotland. I was training staff on how to do exhibitions and workforce development and getting people graduate degrees in museums and curation. I was working with the National Museums of Scotland to start a database and referencing all of the collections in Scotland into one great big database, so it could be used for research or shared collections.
Like there's a lot more going on over there.
Yes. And, you know, I was working with Glasgow and their museums there, and they were voted the European Capital of Culture right before I left. I was working on the International Year of Homecoming, which was, I think, 2008 or 9 in Scotland, where they were asking the world, anybody with Scottish roots, come back to Scotland, you know, experience what's here. And and then I show up in London, Ontario.
Because you wanted to find a good Canadian boy.
Yes, I was over British men at that point. But I was ready for a new challenge. I wanted to come back. I had applied to, so this is pre-recession. This isn't even when the 2008 recession hit. I was 26 and I applied to 138 museum jobs in Canada, across Canada.
Yeah.
And every single one of them told me I was overqualified.
Yeah. Which is kind of, I mean, I'll say I understand, but at the same time, if you're applying for it, it means that you want it.
Absolutely.
So it's like, why wouldn't you sit down and at least have a conversation?
And
right?
I said, look, like I fair enough, I need to pay my dues. I'm just trying to break into the Canadian museum market. Like I'm willing to get coffee for people to get coffee, you know, for the boss. And I had people straight up say to me, well, you'll have my job in 6 months. So no.
Yeah, that's...
So it was.
I guess, like, on one hand, I get it, right? Because you're like, well, no, this means you're good. But I mean, okay, there maybe just shows there's a bit of a flaw in the system where, I mean, I am a big believer in if somebody more qualified comes along, they just get the job. And the reason I say that is because if you actually really care about what you're doing, that's what should be going through your head.
Yeah, there's a huge problem, I think, and I mean, this speaks to a bigger issue with the millennial and the boomers and what's going to happen in between when people retire and there's this leadership and power vacuum that we're going to see across the board in every sector. And because there's not the mentorship, there's not the stewardship of organizations or businesses where they're too protectionist. They're feeling threatened, and they are not. And you know, I think like the
is it the
first year
same
of a
way in
millennial.
Europe? Is Europe like that, or do they?
No, they don't want that knowledge gap. They don't want, and I mean, it's
Asia
really
doesn't want it either.
it's really
Asia's
indicative
very,
of
like,
the sector as well. We bulldoze heritage every chance we get. There's always an ongoing discussion about funding the arts and culture and museums and how it's important. You know, London has 15 museums.
Name them all.
Okay. Museum London, Eldon House, Children's Museum, First Hussars Museum, Fanshawe Pioneer Village, Banting House, Canadian Medical Hall of Fame, Jet Aircraft Museum, Spirit of Flight Museum, Secrets of Radar Museum, Grosvenor Lodge, Elsie Perrin-Williams Estate, Museum of Ontario Archaeology, Hume Cronin Observatory, and the JP Metro Sports Museum.
There you go.
Round of applause.
I honestly had no idea.
Yeah, a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
Well, when I showed up and I got this job, the hiring committee actually said to me, you have to figure out, other than Museum London and Eldon House, what museums are in London. And I remember Googling.
Me. Like, because they didn't even know.
They didn't even know. And these were people that were in the sector and tasked with finding an executive director of Canada's first London Heritage Council. So the model that we have in London, it now exists in Edmonton.
Okay.
We helped start the Edmonton Heritage Council. They looked at what London did and thought it was such a great model. So in any other municipality, I would be working internally within the city. I would be within a culture department. You know, Hamilton, similar sized city to us, similar sized assets. They have about 25, 30 people working in their heritage department, or they're in their culture department. We have two in London. So
you and one other.
No, there's two people within city employees that make up the culture department, and then everything else is contracted out, purchase of service agreement. Which
is that a good model or is that a bad model?
You know what? It depends on the day.
Okay.
So more often than not, it's a good model. So what that does is it gives you the ability to hire people that aren't necessarily just civil servants. They're people that have worked in the sector, that are educated in the sector, that speak that language. Yep. But then I also speak civil servant and government. So I act as a go-between. I act as, you know, a bit of a translator that way. It creates a bit of a buffer so I can deal with sector-wide issues and then take them forward. And museums aren't having, and heritage organizations, festivals aren't having to parade themselves in front of council and ask for money every couple of years. You know, there's a different process in place. I've also been referenced as, you know, the queen of leveraging. So for every dollar the city gives me, I go out and sometimes leverage $4 to $10 more.
Wow.
Yeah. So they give me a base to create and deliver services. So it's a good model. And, you know, sometimes I flip back and forth. Do I have a city pension? No. Do I have city benefits? No. But do I have more freedom and more creativity?
Yeah.
Does it let me, within my organization, be a lot more entrepreneurial? Yes. So
I think it allows you to get more accomplished in the way that you want?
We can get way more done. So, you know, for example, we did London's first culture plan we brought out in 2013. Gosh, that's like 6 years now.
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay. I didn't realize it was that long. But we hadn't had one since the 70s.
What?
We had not planned for culture in London since the 70s until 2013. So brought in consultants, did sector-wide, citywide consultation, developed culture plans. So really focusing on what we wanted to do.
Okay, so what is that like? What does a culture plan for the city look like?
So it was a bit of a deep dive. At first, we did a whole big data collection, which had not been done. So Stats Canada doesn't really, you know, capture what we needed. Culture workers, you know, and it's people like London's culture sector had really exploded. So, that's including all the tech companies now and, places like Voices and, a lot of the other kind of, I would even argue all of our breweries, that's part of our culture sector, right? They're artisans and and so that, and then just looking at our heritage assets. So yes, there is 15 museums because the number one public feedback we got when we did open sessions at the library and we said, come tell us what London needs. What does London need for culture? Number one thing people put, London needs a museum.
What?
Yep.
So just
straight
up people in London really didn't realize we had a museum.
And I was like, so we have 15. And they were like, what? But it's the idea of a museum.
Is it like so? Is it like when you say museum? Is it because people are like we need a Louvre?
Yeah, or a ROM, or People's History Museum, something like that, right? They don't view what we have as that type of institution, even though we have 15. And we actually have a really great representation of what the Canadian museum sector looks like. And we actually have a lot of military museums or, special interest museums. We have Canada's first children's museum. I mean, the list goes on, 15, but yeah, people want that kind of, they don't have that idea of museums. So it's interesting, or I don't know. So Doors Open, a program the Heritage Council's been running. We just finished our 18th year in September. I still get phone calls, emails, feedback, Twitter, Facebook. This was so great. Can you do it again next year? I'd never been out. I've lived my whole life in London. And I'm like, 18 years. It's been on the same weekend. 18 years. We've had 35, sometimes 70 sites, free, open to the public, come out, experience London's culture, heritage, history.
So I guess the issue is getting the information out to the public.
Yeah. So what we found, it was like, do we go through the free press? Yeah. Do we, print media was huge 10 years ago, not now.
For a while.
And we have to keep being inventive. And what we have found, because we talked to the other Doors Opens across Ontario and some of the other, programs like this across Canada. And London, what we do does not work in other markets. And I think, again, it's because of who Londoners are. So
are Londoners that different?
Yes. Guess what the number one, the best marketing tool to get Londoners out to something is? Out of all the marketing materials.
I'm going to say radio just because I want to say radio.
It is radio because Londoners sit in their cars and drive from one end of the city to the next. They're not on public transit. They're not biking. Or billboards.
Do you know the last time I listened to the radio? Seriously. And funny enough, it was actually this morning for 5 seconds. Because I was away for 3 days. My wife used my car yesterday and put the radio on. Yeah. Before that, I don't even know.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a big, don't get me wrong. Yeah. I would rather listen to an audiobook or a podcast. Mm-hmm. Sure, maybe I will listen to music, but to me now, Spotify and TuneIn and all these, Amazon
that's what
music,
I do.
I can listen to what I want when I want, and I don't have to listen to the same 20 songs on repeat.
Yep.
But radio.
So when we purchase the weather every 15 minutes on the radio stations, that's when we get the most uptake.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is it a specific age demographic though too? Are you missing
Possibly.
The youngers?
No, actually our top, and this was another piece that we were actually surprised about when Google Analytics came out and you could start seeing who people were and when they're liking things on Facebook or Instagram or ads. Our biggest audience is women 25 to 40.
Interesting.
It's because they're trying to figure out what to do. Women are tasked with
what are the kids going to do?
What are the kids going to do? Or it's date night. What am I going to do? What's going on in London? I've got friends. What's going on? Right? It's women, and they are more tuned in culturally.
Do you dislike that it's that way?
No, I think it's great. No, because to me, the boomers, like everybody always thinks it's like targeting history, heritage, museums, culture. It's going to be the boomers that are your like natural audience. So we do a lot through, we still do newspaper ads. We still do stuff on TV because some people still have cable television.
I haven't had cable in 8 years.
9.
I think. Yeah. Even 9. I don't even know. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we try to appeal across all, but that's, it was interesting to see who our biggest demographic was that.
So what are areas of improvement for the city?
The thing that I'm still, the number one thing I heard when I came here was there was nothing to do in London. There's nothing to do in London. And how do we keep, the 19 to 30 or 35s? I know when I showed up, everybody said to me, "You are going to love London." And I was like, really? Do tell.
Yeah.
Do tell. And they're like, "It is a fantastic place to get married and raise children." Yeah. And I was like,
and you're like,
I am 26. I did not go to Western. I do not know a soul.
Yeah.
How is this going to work for me? And Forest City Sports and Social Club, Kyla, had just started her first season. Yep. So I joined volleyball, softball, yoga. I joined everything I could to meet literally everybody. Busy. And it was like me and literally a handful of like the original OG London millennial crowd that, that I still see every now and then out at things, but it was tough going. And then I would sit at council and they would talk about cutting the entire culture budget and then turn around and go, "But how do we get millennials, in London?" And I'm like, how do you see these as two separate issues? People will go, and this, again, maybe the lens I had was still my UK lens, but it's like they go where the culture is, and it's not, you can't take that apart. That's like they want to do something when they're done work. They want to go out and do something. They want to have that vibrancy. They want to, and that's why I was all for this Dundas Street Flex Street, 100%. So how do
you think it's turned out?
I think loaded question. Do I want? No, honestly, in theory, it's great. Yeah. In practice, there is so many kinks to work out. So we just did night market in Canada Day on Dundas Street in June 30th and July 1st. So night market was just a total shot in the dark. That was
just try something.
Yeah. I have to have all this infrastructure. I have to shut down Dundas Street. I have road closures. I have to bring in porta potties, fencing, stages, all this jazz. Be ready to go for like 11 a.m. on July 1st. None of the companies want to work on July 1st, so they have to bring it all in on June 30th. That was a bit of a hard sell with the businesses, even though it was a long weekend and a Sunday night. Well, people might still want to drive down here and park on the street in front of my business on a Sunday night of a long weekend.
It's one road.
Yes.
This
is the thing they didn't think about, though. When you shut down Dundas, you cannot do that in isolation. You have to, and I have given this feedback, when you shut down Dundas from Rideout to Richmond, you need to shut down Talbot from Queen to King, because you need a way for people to load in and load out.
Yeah.
You need that extra kind of piece of infrastructure, because when people come downtown and it's after hours or it's July 1st and we're doing a 12, 16-hour festival, where are people going to the washroom? Mm-hmm. There's no Dundas Street washrooms.
No.
So where am I putting my porta potties? Not in front of everybody's restaurant out here.
I never even thought about that.
Right? So where do we put them? We put them in Market Lane, tucked in behind some parking spots. The market has been fantastic, and so has Bud Gardens. So we also...
how come we don't have just like outdoor public
Like Europe?
washrooms that, and I'm not saying like leave it
Yeah.
open all the time.
Yeah.
Because then.
But for festivals, you can unlock
where
them
it's like
and they can
literally
be used.
just like, why isn't there, I don't know where you would put it. I guess that's
that's the problem.
yeah.
You would have to put it essentially where we line up our porta potties for the festival, which you lose parking. Londoners are precious about their parking, especially downtown. So you have to shut down. Now, luckily, the businesses along that Talbot Street stretch. So when I did Sesqui in 2017, Sesqui Fest, that big 5-day festival in 2017, which, you know, we then helped feed into the whole Flex Street, you know, because we had used the street how they wanted the street to be used. We built a lot of really great relationships. So Market, Fitzroy's, Squire, they saw great uptake, huge numbers in their restaurant, people that I've never been in here because I didn't know this was here. I came down for the festival. I didn't know there was a pub on this corner. I didn't know there was and we had our beer tent right in front of Fitzroy's. They didn't even bat an eyelid.
Yeah.
And we shut ours down at 10. Everybody went into the Squire and into Fitzroy's. And they did so well. So when they heard we were doing this again this past year, they were all for it.
Yeah.
And Milosh's, they were great, and Beer Lab, and because they get it.
Yeah.
They get it. The number one question we had was, why wasn't the market open? Because people wanted to still go to the market on July 1. And I said, I don't know. So,
but you know what though? I mean, it's at least you have feedback to then start giving to people. And it's like over the next couple years.
Yeah.
We'll get it right.
I would love to see, and this is the thing I was saying, it's not about competition. No. And again, I say, go talk to the guys at Fitzroy's and the guys at the Squire. They will tell you that we had our beer market or beer tent. We had all the local breweries right in front of the market in Market Square, Rotary Square there. And they still sold out of beer at Fitzroy's and the Squire.
Well, like, I think what some people maybe forget, it's like, some people won't want to sit outside, and some people will like want to go inside, whether or not it's AC or just a comfier chair or whatever.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and where we did all of for night market, we didn't really know how that was going to go. It had not been done.
Yeah.
It was a total shot in the dark. And I thought, all this infrastructure is here. Let's just see if vendors want to come down. We tried to fill it, and we did. We packed it full of food vendors and other we had like VR, we had sports stuff, and we had, you know, artisan vendors, and it was packed. 7:00, you could not, it was shoulder to shoulder. Awesome. You could not move. And I was hugely relieved because I really didn't know how it was going to go. And all we did is put a Facebook event up on Facebook because we had no sponsorship. We had no government funding. We had nothing to put this on. And we had over 89,000 impressions on social media.
That's huge.
It was huge. We could not believe it. But clearly there was a market for this type of event on Dundas Street in the summer. And it worked. And I was, you know, walking behind people and they were like, oh, this is so great. This reminds me of that time I was in Barcelona and they were having this street festival and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, did somebody just reference downtown London, Ontario, Dundas Street to Barcelona?
Yeah. So I was just in Green Bay this weekend, right? For, you know, we did the whole tailgate thing and everything. And we started talking. It's like, why can't London have fun like this for sporting events and other things? Yeah. Right? Like, and we just said, like, for the Knights, for instance, they've got a pretty serious following. I mean, they've been a dynamite team forever. It's like, why couldn't there be a big bender the day before every game? I mean, we have the area. We have the area. We have the market. You've got the arena. You've got the Flex Street. Now, mind you, let's just say, okay, maybe the Flex Street's not completely done yet. Mm-hmm. So maybe in another year or two, once it is kind of all completed. But like, to me, it's just like, why spend the money if you're not really like squeeze every drop out of that orange? Yeah, right?
It's about supporting the infrastructure we have. So they've built this now. And I think they very much took a Field of Dreams approach. If we build it, they will come, which I agree with. And again, like and they've got somebody in place. They've got, Dundas Street coordinator there, but it's about supporting the festivals or the events that want to come down and making it easy for them. Yeah. And to make that event happen, I had to talk to 7 to 10 different city departments.
What?
Yes.
That makes no sense. They got to streamline that. That makes no sense. That's way too complicated.
I had to talk to somebody about the street banners going up, which also meant that the hanging baskets couldn't go up. And then we had to find out the right measurements because they're new banner poles. They're not like the rest of the banner poles.
They're not like
there was three reprints because they were the wrong size. The hydro was not working how it's supposed to be working. So at 4:00 on June 30th, I had to make a phone call and said, your generator-free street is not going to be generator-free because nobody can plug in. So...
They're going to fix it?
I don't know.
Let's hope so.
I have been told to budget the same way for next year that I did last year. So I don't... they're not even done the next section.
I'm going to say this.
Right?
As a taxpayer, I find that frustrating.
Well, ditto, right?
I'm just, because here's the truth. I actually expect more.
I thought, so what happened in theory in the plans is not what happened in practice. And the people that are now left to make sure this happens, like the roads guys and the ops guys at the city, like I had their phone numbers. They were letting me call them at 11 o'clock at night and 6 a.m. on July 1st because they hadn't thought about things like when the road is closed, does this now become a festival ground? Because they put in those Jersey barriers. So do the bylaws change? So I'm standing with 4 different city departments and they're all looking at me because I said, we have told our food vendors that they are to detach their trailers and move them off, move their vehicles off site because we want to put in as many vendors as we can.
Which makes sense, right?
And also we don't want people's pickup trucks sitting in the middle of the street. Yeah. And then somebody says, well, we can't do that because food trucks, they have to be attached on the street. And I'm like, but this isn't a street now, is it? It's a festival event ground. Everybody stands and looks at each other. So I said...
And is it because nobody wants to make the decision?
Well, because the 2 bylaws aren't referencing each other because we're in a totally new experience now with the Flex Street and this has not been hammered out. So I said... I'm going to make a decision and I'm going to say human life trumps food truck bylaw. Yeah. We're moving the trucks off site.
Fair. That's logical.
There's concrete barriers going in so nobody can drive through this event. That's what we're doing. And I said, we'll figure it out and as we go. But there was a lot, my organization, we were the guinea pigs, right?
Yeah.
So luckily our organization has that fantastic relationship where we are, purchase of service with the City of London. Mm-hmm. So I do know a lot of the folks there and have a great working relationship. And, but there was not an emergency and disaster plan written. And they wanted me to submit one. And I said, well, you tell me, because if this is now... I wouldn't...
Well, they make the rules.
Yeah.
They just didn't want to share the rules, or they omitted the idea that there are rules.
So,
I don't know.
I did one and I said, does this work? I identified the major risks of what running a festival on Dundas Street is, and it worked. But there was a huge amount of trial and error. So they hadn't thought about things like on July 1st, now that the road is closed and it's a stat holiday, when the Squire, Fitzray's, Pizza, McDonald's, Starbucks, Typhoon, all put out their restaurant garbage, nobody's there to pick it up the morning of July 1. Well, I've dealt with my festival garbage. Am I now, as a festival organizer, supposed to remove all the Dundas Street business garbages? Where am I putting that garbage? Yeah. How am I picking up restaurant garbage? I don't know. So that was a 6 a.m. phone call. luckily it was answered because I was on site.
Yeah.
I'm standing there going, where did all this garbage come from? So it was, things that they were like, right. So if it's a stat holiday, we need to work that out. And, so it's going to get there. I think we need a couple more events.
Couple more years, couple more events,
different types of events. I mean, I was quite happy when, Taco Fest had their event. I shared, where we put people because the garbage cans are immovable on the Flex Street.
Yep.
The bike racks are immovable on the Flex Street. Other services, fire hydrants, everything's unmovable, unflexible on the Flex Street. And, they didn't put a garbage can directly beside a lamp stand, like, so that you can have 2 10 by 10 vendors. No, they moved it 6 feet away.
Yeah.
So now you can't have anything.
Are they going to look at some of these things and say like, hey, maybe let's make some adjustments?
Yeah.
Or is it just like, no, this is how it is.
I'm not privy to that. I don't know.
I really hope they actually revisit. Like once it's done.
Yes.
Once it's done and they look at it and say, okay, again, it's like, it's an orange. Let's squeeze every drop out of it. Let's make some tweaks.
I think if they went out to the people that are using the street, festival organizers, and said, how did you find that? How was that for you? Now, I know the vendors that we're working with, the different companies that you need to bring in. I said to them, it worked great last year. I'm already speaking with them. Like I'm already planning for July 1 next year. You have to start that far in advance. And they said, we want to be at every meeting, even though we're not talking about electrical necessarily. They said the approach you do where I bring everybody that I can. I'm like, I want you to sit here. It may not all pertain to you, but I think the more that everybody knows, we're all in this together because we were for about a week, 20 hours a day, all seeing each other.
Yeah.
It was it was a lived experience together to make that thing happen. And they said that is so beneficial because, we can't just parachute in and then the day of try and problem solve if we don't have all the background and the information. Yeah. So, I think I'm hoping that going forward, once the whole section opens up in the whole street, but they're going to have to look at, using Clarence in that next section as the kind of support street, how we use Talbot on this side. Because it's, you have to put the porta potties somewhere.
Yeah.
You have to have, delivery trucks come in somewhere, you have to, and that's what it doesn't have.
Yeah. When they first started talking about the Flex Street, did they not originally talk about shutting it down full time to traffic? Did we make that up?
I don't know. I sat in so many different consultations, feedback sessions. I know the biggest thing that I drove home was I said, you need some form of home base or some kind of, Dundas Street, they need a storefront. They need somewhere. So in 2017, we used downtown London offices because we needed somewhere when we're on site for 20 hours,
Yeah, you need a home
there's
base.
somewhere to count the cash for the beer garden. There's, somewhere for your volunteers to leave their valuables. There's somewhere out of direct sun. I have a story for you on that one. Don't let me forget that piece. And I said, you need like a clubhouse or like a home base. And, this year in 2019, we used Hotel Metro. Now they were fantastic. And actually it was a perfect location because you could go out the back, go out the front, right onto Dundas Street. Staff could use washrooms when it's 42 with the Humidex. You can pop in for a quick shower before you head back out into the street. And it worked perfectly. But I mean, is that ideal? No. Right? Should you have to be renting rooms in Hotel Metro to be able to run an event on Dundas Street? No. So the number one complaint we got from Canada Day this year, too much sun on Dundas Street.
Okay.
Not enough shade.
Not enough shade.
So the other thing that I think that, obviously I'm going to get right on that. I don't even know how.
Okay. Do you think some people are maybe unrealistic with certain things?
I think so. Or,
too much shade or too much sun, not enough shade.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you want us to do?
But a lot of Londoners are used to Vic Park, right?
That's
Victoria
true.
Park,
Okay, fair enough.
or
Yeah.
Harris Park or Springbank Park, right? You're in a park setting.
Yeah.
Canada Day used to happen in Harris Park, but that park, the state of that park after Canada Day, Park Jam, Rock the Park. It's even there's still. I remember conversations that Judy Bryant every year, Councillor Judy Bryant was having, saying we have to do less in Victoria Park because the park cannot handle that kind of traffic, and it's not meant to handle that kind of traffic, right? But what I thought was interesting about Dundas Street, which I don't think anybody thought, is the buildings are made of brick on both sides, and then the street is brick. Traditionally, what do you make ovens out of? Brick.
Holds the heat. So it was
standing in an oven,
for sure.
And people are bringing their dogs down, and I'm like, I'm not against dogs, but this is not.
No, it's not.
Dogs,
that's not a
brick,
road that you.
Dundas Street is not where you want to bring your dogs. But it was standing there in the blazing sun. I was like, yes, this is why they make ovens out of bricks. But
there's no solution to.
No. I mean, there's shade sales or trying to get some more trees. But
what do you put shade sails in between the buildings. That's a tough one to do. Like you're talking,
you can't anchor into some of these buildings. No. I don't know what. So we're going to
try
the
new buildings you could anchor into and you'd be fine. But you're talking maybe that's 20% of the buildings on the road.
Yeah. But it's on that east-west axis.
Yeah.
It's. That you stand on the right side of Bud, or you get a bit of shade. But it's tough.
Bigger trees.
I don't even know what we would.
And even then, though, let's be honest; those trees aren't going to grow that fast because
and they can't,
setting
right?
they're in. They just they're limited.
They're going to grow into the buildings. So it'll be interesting. I'm glad we have a year under our belts and we know what to expect. There'll always be something, but the biggest thing this year, hands down, that we were not prepared for was the electrical issue. That not being able to plug anybody into any of
that's a big
the
problem.
Posts. And that was kind of
why. So
what I was led to believe was the selling feature of this. You can have a vendor, they can plug in.
Well, I remember seeing photos where they showed like a rendering with food trucks.
Yeah.
And all of this, and you're like, that would be awesome. Do it every week.
Well, and we had made a conscious decision to originally in our plans not put any food trucks or food vendors in front of any of the restaurants. Mm-hmm. Didn't want to do that. We had asked the restaurants to come out. We said, come out and be in front. Put up a 10 by 10. Sell an appetizer and a drink or something off your menu and then tell people that they can go in. We didn't get any uptake on that this past year. I hope we get
nobody really
but
are you dealing with, you got to get a permit, you got to do a drawing, you've got to isn't it it's a little more complicated? There's some red tape around it.
A little bit. But I know when we have a food vendor that, because we're now a festival event ground, right? They're registered. The rules change.
That's nice.
So, what I was saying is any of the restaurants along the strip or any of the, businesses, put out a 10 by 10. I will not put anybody in front of your space. I will not charge you like I'm charging everybody else to be a vendor, because I want that I want the lights on, right? So during night market, I want people to walk down Dundas and say, look at all these businesses, look at all these restaurants. I'm going to come back. And eat here and shop here and be here, because I didn't know all of this was here. And that was what we were trying to accomplish, as well as, through a fantastic festival, which I think we accomplished. But, I know I was speaking with Chris at the Squire, and he was like, I think I want to come out and sell some sliders. I'm like, absolutely. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Do it.
Please do it. The more food we have, the more vendors we have, the more people will draw in.
Well, and it's, you need one or two businesses along there to really jump on board, to then kind of, show to the other businesses
be
that are
champions.
A little slower. Yeah. To just be like, no, guys, this is working.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I know he talks about it. Every festival, every event, he's always like, no, it's great.
Yeah.
I've never heard the Squire complain. They're always like, no, it's awesome. We always get people in the door.
Yeah, they bend over backwards. He was giving me change for our beer garden. I mean, that's how well he was doing. Yeah. Totally
he's
not
a team
threatened.
player.
Yes.
Like you know, I'd like to think most people downtown there is this kind of like little downtown community.
Yes, absolutely.
I think sometimes some of us probably get, poo-pooing things maybe a little too much sometimes. I don't know, but
I can confidently say in the 12 years I've been, Dundas Street is night and day. I used to walk down Queen or King to go to meetings to avoid Dundas Street. Yeah. And now, even with the construction, I walk down Dundas. I try and do everything I can downtown. Yeah. I hate going to the mall.
I don't like malls. To go to the mall. But I can't deal with big crowds generally. Yeah. So it's
surprising. But I bought my wedding dress at Petrov Bridal. Chester Pegg is where I got my wedding rings. He's now Diamonds on Richmond. He just moved around the corner. I go to Salon Cyan to get my hair done. I try and use the Squire and Beer Lab and Milosh's and Nosh and all the Typhoon and bring people downtown. Yep. I try to do all of it.
I think we need more high rises downtown.
I think we need more people because I know so how
do you get more people?
Yeah, well, you need more housing. You need more. So perfect example, moved here 2007, 2008. I was like, where do I want to live? And I, again, had not set foot in London. I looked at a map and I was like, okay, it seems like south of Oxford. It seems like north of York, the railroad tracks seemed like a bit of a, natural barrier. Then the river, I was like, okay, I want to be, east of the river. And then, it looked like the downtown was south of Oxford, north of York, west of Adelaide and, east of the river. And I looked, because again, coming from Europe, you can rent a flat everywhere, anywhere, above buildings, above storefronts.
That doesn't happen here.
Nowhere. The Harriston wasn't built yet. The Renaissance hadn't even broken ground, I don't think.
Yeah. Probably not. No, probably not.
So I ended up in a building at the corner of Rideout in Kent. And it was just sheer luck because I was driving around, literally driving every street.
Like, I've got to be able to find a sign.
Yeah. I'm like, I start a week from now and I have nowhere to live. I might be in a hotel, and where do they were putting out a sign, room for rent. I was like, oh, okay. So I'm going in here, but there was nowhere and there was nobody living downtown, or if they were students.
Yeah.
There was no young professionals. There was nowhere for me to rent, 1 bedroom apartment, underground parking, with facilities that I could leave my car or not need a car and walk to work.
Yeah. London's a big, you need a car city.
I found that out really quickly.
You could maybe say in the downtown it's starting to change.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always the big bubble up complaint of, downtown needs a grocery store. Okay, maybe they do, maybe they don't. There's options.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest.
There
you
is
can
options.
Find what you need for the most part.
I mean, when the Shoppers opened their food hall, that helped, and the market. But I remember, my first weekend here, I got my apartment, I moved my stuff in, and it was a Sunday morning. And I said to my mom, let's go to Covent Garden Market, get a newspaper, get a coffee, get a croissant, let's just, and I'm walking down Talbot and literally just newspapers blowing, tumbleweeds, ghost town. And I was like, I actually couldn't see anybody. There was no cars, there was no people. And I was like, okay, the last time I was on a street like this is when I was in Manchester and they'd called it a bomb threat and they were evacuating the city center. And I was like, this is really bizarre. And I get to the market, the lights are off and the door is locked. And I'm like, it's Sunday morning at 9. Where am I supposed to go? And there was nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Now that's changed. But I couldn't process that.
Yeah, because it's weird.
And I'm like, so I have to get in my car and drive to, White Oaks or Masonville.
You got to go to the suburbs.
Why? Yeah. But because there was nobody like me living that was like, I am a young professional. I work downtown. I'm going to live downtown. I'm going to walk everywhere. I'm going to do everything downtown. It was 2008 was not like that. Now I think it's much better. You know, my mom has moved to London to retire, but she lives downtown. She says she loves it in the summer. She lives, you know, Talbot and Central. She said, I don't cook dinner on weekends in the summer. I go over to Vic Park every weekend. I get food and I sit and listen to the music, and it's fantastic. She walks everywhere. You know, she does everything. It's perfect, right? And there's more of that now. There wasn't. So we have come a long way.
Yep.
We have come a long, long way.
Any areas where we need to maybe really improve? Or like anything that we're missing in London where it's like, hey, we should really be doing this? I
think, and this has been the same conversation I've been having for 12 years, we are not good at promoting what we have in London.
Yeah.
We're not, there's no one vehicle in London that's like, this is what's going on in London this weekend. This is everything that's going on. And I think that's still lacking. I know the Arts Council and the Heritage Council, we tried to do that long time for culture, but it was just, you know, asking people to submit their stuff and posting online, but there's no one-stop
shop where everybody can go to find all.
Yeah. So, you know, and there's always so much going on. That was the thing I always heard. I don't hear that anymore, though. That is one benchmark I think that has changed. Is people used to say
there's a lot going on.
No, there's nothing to do in London.
Yeah.
There's nothing. It's the weekend. There's nothing going on in London. There's nothing to do in London. And I don't hear that anymore. Now I hear actually people say, I don't even know. There's too much going on. I might just stay home. And I'm just...
Because it's
I'm like,
overload.
Really?
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm avoiding the downtown. There's a festival happening. I'm like...
It's like, it's not that bad.
It's not that
I mean, they don't shut down every road.
Yeah.
Rarely do they even really shut down more than
there's still a way.
3.
You never shut down King. You never shut down Queen. You can still get around.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I think there's more happening. And more needs to happen in our city center.
Maybe could we start a petition to rename it?
I think we need to. We need to change from, I think that is a fundamental psychological problem that Londoners have.
Yeah.
We are
it might
a city.
be too much for us.
We are a city. We are a city.
We have a very conservative bunch, right? Change takes a while.
We have a city center, not a downtown. It's a city center. And I think shifting, if we, you know, shift our language.
Yeah.
Maybe how we think about it will shift, right? If it's not a downtown. A downtown to me is you can drive in somewhere, you can park, you know, it's got 3 lights. That's a downtown, right?
So like smaller place.
A city center is what we have, where it works best if you are kind of on that peripheral and then walk or take public transit or bike. You know, like most major European cities.
Yeah.
You have that pedestrianized area. You have people eating on patios on the street, shopping. People shop in the high street, right?
I think it would be amazing if London could become like a European city. I think, though, the reality, and this is just like North America, was built
strip
for cars.
Malls and we
were built for cars.
Yeah.
Europe was built, I mean... Like, I've been to, I don't even know. I've probably been to like 25 European cities, and it is a different world. And I love it there. I love it that literally you can walk out and within 3 blocks, find everything you need.
Yeah.
But it was built from day one like that.
Yeah.
So it's hard, even though I think it'd be nice, but it's like, how do you really, like, you're talking about really trying to change the way
fundamental
people are.
Change, yeah. But how's it working for us now?
Well, yeah, I mean...
Right?
I don't know.
Is it going to work to keep saying, well, we've always done it this way? I've always been able to drive. You always have to change and
adapt.
No. Yeah.
I think the biggest issue, though, that London's always had is there's not enough people living downtown.
Yes, I would agree.
And the arguments... Like, what's right, what's wrong? I don't know. I think home ownership is more important than renting. Don't get me wrong, you need both. But when you own a condo downtown, there's a pride that comes with owning it.
Absolutely.
Right? And then that means you care more about the neighborhood and you know, the list goes on. But
I think you need both.
Yeah, you need both. You have to have
because somebody
both.
like me, I didn't want to just come in and just buy a condo right off the bat.
Because
right?
you don't necessarily know what you're getting into. But some of the stuff that I hear, like, just to be honest, where you're like, somebody wants to do like an interesting glass high rise, the birds are going to fly into it. Okay, so here's the problem. Then let's unpave the roads, because I see deers getting hit by cars, raccoons, squirrels, cats, like everything. So it's like, yes, a bird's going to fly into a building regardless. Like some of the arguments that you hear are kind of a bit ridiculous.
It's
like
finding balance.
Yeah. We need more people.
Yes.
You need a better tax base.
Yes.
Right? You want to see more restaurants, you need more people to use them.
Yes. Yeah.
People who live in the suburbs, don't get me wrong, they will come downtown, but not as often.
Yeah. You have to have a reason.
You have to. Yeah. Date night, sure. Okay, makes sense. But I mean, some people do date night every week. Some people do it once every 6 months. I don't know. Everyone's different.
It's date night.
But yeah, oh, my wife doesn't see this. But if you live downtown, like I remember, I used to live downtown and I loved it. And then it was, now I grew up outside the city. So I'm used to being outside the city from a living standpoint.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, not that I'm that old, I loved downtown, right?
Yeah.
Like my first home that I owned that I lived in that wasn't an investment property was a townhouse condo on William Street that I think it was Auburn built them. I can't remember, which is weird. And I loved it because literally Friday after work, park my car.
Yep.
And I would walk everywhere.
Yep.
Granted, with the exception of going grocery shopping.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
But normally I would grab stuff Friday on the way home.
Yeah.
Right. And it was amazing. I loved it. But it was always one of those things. That was also 20 years ago. And there really was not as much going on downtown as there is now.
No. Well, I'm in Wortley, and I remember when I bought that house, my husband and I, when we were looking, his family had always lived in Old North or Arva, Ilderton. They said, why would you want to go down there? And I remember a real estate agent, I remember looking at this house and I remember standing outside going, this is perfect. Yeah, I love this. It's on Rideout Street. I love this house, big old house. And immediately before we even walked in, 3 things wrong with this house.
Yeah.
My husband's actually hyperventilating because he's thinking roof, foundation, like I'm going to have to talk her out of this now. This is like, and I said, okay, what's wrong with them? He goes, well, it's on Rideout Street. And I said, right. So I said, it's literally 4 minutes to downtown from here.
Yeah.
I can walk, which I do. We walk downtown to
it's a great walk too.
Park
like
Jam, dinner. It's 15 minutes. It's not even that long. It's a stroll at 15 minutes. I said, right. And I said, isn't Rideout also on a bus route? And he said, well, that brings me to my next point. The bus actually stops in front of your house. I was like, so I can sell my car, not have to pay for parking downtown, and take the bus actually door to door for $2.25, because that's what it was for a bus ticket, or like a $60 bus pass. Yeah. And he didn't know what to say to me.
Are we snobby in London? Is that like, it's okay to say? I think we kind of are. Or at least maybe I'll say I am, just to make everybody feel okay
again,
with that comment.
Well, again, it goes back to that. I want to have my car, and I want to be able to take my car everywhere I need to go.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is great. I can get rid of insurance, maintenance, gas, parking, all that. And I can just take and I did. We only got a car again when we had kids, because kids need cars.
Yeah, they need cars.
But yeah, it was great. The freedom I had, somebody would be like, hey, do you want to go for drinks after work? You could say yes. Yeah. Because you don't have to, I'm going to have to drive my car home and then come back in.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to have to leave my car at work and taxi home and taxi back or whatever. It was like, yeah, sure. Because I don't have to worry about parking. I don't have to worry about driving. It was great. It was great. And I just couldn't understand why this was such an issue buying this house. And, you know, it was on the bus route, which means it also gets plowed.
Oh yeah, always. Yeah.
So
there's no, hey, we got too much snow. We'll get to it in a week.
And what we found out the first time there was a snowfall, because the bus stop was the back doors of the bus opened onto our driveway.
Yeah.
So that meant that they had to plow it. So they had to plow out. Not only is the road now plowed, the whole base of my driveway and sidewalk in front of my house is plowed because it's the bus stop. I thought it was great. I still to this day think it's great because also
why wouldn't you?
Every 15 minutes a bus comes by. So somebody's not breaking into my house.
Yeah.
Because there's traffic, there's people every 15 minutes. It's super safe. I was like winning. I just didn't understand how this was an issue. But this was a real estate agent trying to sell me a home.
Yep.
And this is how he starts off. And I'm standing there going, do you not understand do
you think they got
who
to
I am?
Like, yeah.
I'm a young professional looking to buy a home, and this is actually meeting all my needs. Now, I don't know. I haven't been house shopping in 9-10 years, so I don't know if they've changed up the script on that one. But, hey, good news, you're on a bus route.
I don't know. I wouldn't. So, I mean, like, as a profession, I'm a real estate agent, right? I wouldn't say you change up the script. I mean, our job is to ask questions and get to know what our clients want. But
to lead with,
not base it off of...
There's 3 things wrong with this house. It's on a bus route. But is one of them.
I mean, to me, that just says, like, they didn't actually try to understand you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, I mean,
they knew that my husband was a born and raised Londoner. So, I mean, maybe he thought he did, right?
Yeah.
But maybe he didn't understand that I had lived in Europe and like city centers for so long that was going to be a huge selling feature.
Yeah. Which, like, I operate, and I mean, don't take this the wrong way, women buy homes.
Yes. 100%.
Guys, we don't.
100%.
Like, just, and like, I mean, whenever Tara and I have bought a home.
Yeah.
It's, don't get me wrong, I give some input.
Yeah.
If she's happy with the kitchen, whatever, I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah. I can, it's like, what do you need? I need an office. Just let me paint the walls in my office the color I want and I'm good. Okay. Yeah. Like
For me, what I wanted was an old house in an established neighborhood, sidewalks, which not all London neighborhoods have sidewalks, and a front porch.
Yeah.
Because it created that sense of community. And Wortley Village, Old South, is, which is why it wins awards year after year.
It's one of the top ranked neighborhoods in Canada. It's how you
do things right in a city.
Well, if you look at new neighborhoods, you don't have porches on homes anymore.
And
unless you go outside. If you go into like outer lying areas where you have larger lots, your lot prices are a lot lower than in the city. You can get wider lots and you will see more homes with front porches. But
when I was on mat leave, there was 5 other moms within a 2-block radius. We would go out and we would get coffee. We would have lunch on the patio at the pub, go to the Black Walnut, go to Fire Roasted, go pick up some batteries at Tucky's, maybe some tomato plants, Sweet Onion Bistro for dinner, and
Sounds
library
amazing.
for story time.
Yeah.
And then when they turned the normal school into the Y, both my kids went there. Still to this day, love that.
That was a bit of a
game changer.
Yeah, but like
it was
when
not
they
easy.
When they first mentioned it, it was like are pitchforks coming out on this? Really?
Absolutely. I remember seeing community consultations. People don't let children in that building. Don't it's going to be a waste. It's going to be ruined, and that is a perfect example of what we should be doing. Yeah. That is adaptive reuse at its best. It's not sitting empty. It's not going to be demolition by neglect. The lights are on. The heat is on. And you know what? My kids think they go to daycare in a castle.
Yeah.
They have huge appreciation. It's placemaking. They are taught to, respect heritage. They understand what it means to be in a kind of building like that. And it has really become like an anchor point in the community because we all walk kids to daycare, and then we all walk them home, and you see all the people on their front porches out walking their dog. Huge sense of community. You know, my husband, it was a couple weeks ago, we were walking and my kids were literally saying hi to everybody. And they're like, that's Daisy, you know, and he's like, how does he know that dog's name? And I'm like, because we walk this every day and these people are out. And
it's a front yard neighborhood is what I call those.
And he was just blown away. He's like, I can't believe all these people know my kids' names. Yeah. And I said, well, that's because we see them all the time. But that's it. People are out walking. People are riding bikes. And that's what needs to happen. And if we can get a little bit more of that in the downtown, that would be great. But it's people.
Nice. All right. I'm going to cut this off because we've been going for a long time and I got a feeling you probably have other stuff to do, but
I have jobs
so
too.
Let's just say this, like, let's leave it on this note. If people are looking for more information on what they can do in the City of London, where can they go to find more information? Where do you go?
Where do I go?
Yeah.
Tourism London's website is kind of what's out there right now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's I find London's so still siloed, compartmentalized, you know, and actually really neighborhood focused. So, but I would say the more that we can do downtown, but you know, yeah, I don't have a direct answer for you on that one.
Well, we'll have you back at a later date, and hopefully there's something that
fingers
comes
crossed
out that
a place to go to find out about everything in London.
All right. Thanks for coming in, Andrea. This has been a blast.
Thanks for having me.
All right.